Hello everyone, myself Ankit, and today I'll be presenting my literature review titled Interpreting Internal Working Model as Dynamic Cognitive Representation, a cognitive science perspective on attachment theory. The goal of this project was to examine internal working model from a cognitive science perspective and explore how they help explain the relationship between early attachment experiences and adult social cognition. Attachment theory tells us that our early interaction with caregiver influence how we think about ourselves and others throughout life. These early experiences form internal working model which shapes our relationship, emotional responses and social behavior. While attachment theory explains that these internal models exist, it does not fully explain how they are represented cognitively or how they continue to influence behavior over time. This led to my research question. How does interpreting internal working model as dynamic cognitive representation enhances our understanding of relationship between early attachment experiences and adult social cognition? From a cognitive science perspective, this project connects several important concepts including mental representation, experience-dependent learning, memory, predictive processing, emotional regulation, and social cognition. Rather than viewing internal working model as static personality trait, I explored them as dynamic mental representation that continuously influences how people interpret and respond to social situations. To investigate this question, I conducted a narrative literature review. I searched literature from multiple sources, including Georgia Tech Library, PsycInfo, Scopus, and many more. I included peer-reviewed journal article, foundational attachment theory literature, and recent cognitive science research, with particular emphasis on studies published after 2011. Studies focus exclusively on clinical intervention or unrelated to attachment or cognitive representation were excluded. As I reviewed the literature, my focus gradually shifted. Initially, I was studying attachment theory, but the recurring theme across the literature was internal working model behave much like cognitive representation. I organized the literature into four major themes. First, internal working model are formed through experience-dependent learning. A repeated interaction with caregiver gradually becomes stable internal representation that guide future expectation about relationship. Second, the literature suggests that internal working model function as dynamic cognitive representation rather than fixed personality trait. Instead of remaining unchanged, they continuously integrate new social experience while preserving knowledge from earlier experiences. Third, these representation support several important cognitive processes including memory organization, predictive processing, attention allocation, emotion regulation, and social cognition. This demonstrates that internal working models are not isolated psychological construct but part of a broader cognitive system involved in understanding and predicting social interference. Finally, although internal working models are relatively stable, they remain adaptable throughout life. Positive or negative interpersonal experience can update these internal representation, allowing people to revise expectation and behavior over time. Taken together, these findings supports the idea that internal working model provide a cognitive mechanism connecting early attachment experience with adult social cognition. The main contribution of this review is to demonstrate that internal working model can be understood as dynamic cognitive representation. This perspective creates a stronger bridge between attachment theory and cognitive science by explaining not only what internal working models are, but how they function within human cognition. Like any literature review, this project has limitation. It is based on existing empirical research rather than new experimental data, follows a narrative review approach instead of systematic review, and does not include any computational or experimental validation. Future research could extend this work by developing a computational model of internal working model, investigating the neural mechanism and exploring how they relate to predictive processing and activate interference framework. To conclude, the central takeaway from this project is that internal working models are best understood as dynamic cognitive representation that organizes memory, prediction, emotion regulation, and social cognition throughout the lifespan. Thank you.